feature where they book for deliveries. So both of them are those features run across those two particular actors. So yes, you can have features that run across multiple features, right? That run across those different users, but most of the times they can't be all same features because if they are all the same features, you see that you have to merge both into one. That means both of them can use only one application instead of building two different applications that are the same that have the same features. So I don't know whether you got that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Chukwemeka. If there are any other questions, please drop them in the chat box and we'll take them afterwards. So we'll go over the task 4 and the deliverables. Okay, so it says following the submission of your empathy map and pain point, you've been asked to work on the following. A list of well-articulated ideas from the pain points identified, a list of actors identified and ideas, and a prioritization grid for each actor. Okay, so we've gone over the ideation slides and, we've gone over what the ideas are, we've gone over what the actors are, and then the prioritization grid, yeah? So come up with your ideas first, identify your actors, place your ideas under each actor, and then create prioritization grid for each of this actor. And when you're going through your notes, when you're going through your interview notes as well, you can identify opportunities. Opportunities are not pain points. Opportunities are notes or things that your participants mentioned that they might like to have in the design. Okay. Okay, Claire, I will look up something you can read about actors. But I think, let me see. Is there no one in this? Okay, all right. I'll definitely get an article on actors so you get more idea. Okay, so we'll move over to the prototype stage now. And for this week, we'll just be discussing low fidelity prototypes, planning and mapping as well. So prototyping is when you start to put your ideas together in some form of interface or some sort of preliminary design. Okay, and the first thing you want to do is to plan and map how your design, your prototype will look like. So what you learn here is the meaning of user journey and task flow and how to create a user journey map. So user journey map is a visualization of how a customer or user interacts with our product. It helps designers to identify and strategize for key moments in the product experience or service you're designing. So whatever app or website you're using now, the designer had notes or had some sort of timeline of how you will use each of the features that are present on the app. So what do you click first? When that comes up, what do you click next? That is what the user journey handles. How do you feel also when you click these things or when you go through using the application? A user journey map helps as a starting point of determining what to prototype for and how to go about it. And tools that can be used here are pen and paper, Miro, or Extensio. So the steps to create a journey map is to first identify the task. And once you're done identifying the task, it could be like in the Evernote, the design comparison task assignment that I gave to compare Evernote and Google. The task was to write and save a note and record your observation. So the task could be anything that could be done with your product. And once you identify what is to be done, you create a task flow. You create a starting point. You identify your starting point and your end point. And then you identify actions, interface, and channels. So to identify the task, you pick a task from the high impact, low effort. Since it's the ideas that we will be prototyping first of all. And then afterwards, you create a task flow. So a task flow is simply the path taken by the user on a website or app to complete, a task flow is simply the path taken by the user on a website or app to complete a task. To create one, we need to identify the following. You identify the entry point. The entry point is the starting point of the user. Usually this is when you open the app. And it starts from your mobile phone, your mobile device, or your laptop. That is your entry point. And then the action steps the users take, and in what sequence that they take them. So once they've gone past the entry point, what are the actions are they taking? Where did they go next? And then prompts as well that will guide the user onto the next step. So it could be a button that says continue. It could be a loader, a screen loader sort of animation, and elements like that. And then you have the end goal. The end goal is what the user wants to accomplish with your product. For the design comparison assignment, your end goal was to save a note. Okay. So example of a task flow. Task flows can take many different forms depending on the type of website or app you're building. So if you start researching and reading on your own, you're going to see variations of how task flows have been created. So designers usually do come up with an idea of what they want their own task flow to look like. But at the heart of it, it's basically the steps that your user will take to accomplish something, a goal that they have that they want to carry out using your product. Okay, so for example here, we'll use the task flow to search for a meal with a picture on the online food ordering app. This is what, oh, I should have corrected that at the top. This is a task flow for what it might look like, or for what it would look like when searching for a meal with a picture. So the user starts on the home page, which is the entry point. And from the home page, the user will click the camera button. And once the camera is open, the user will take a picture, upload a picture, and then search for similar meals. So once the search is complete, the results come down. So it moves on to the result page, and the user taps a meal that they would like to proceed with. So once the meal is selected, it goes over to the meal page where you'd have more information about the meal, probably the ingredients that went into preparing the meal, how many calories the meal might have, and then the user clicks on, once the user is satisfied with this information about the meal, they'll click on the checkout button or the order button, as the case may be. And then to continue to check out, the user is prompted to pick their mode of payment. So for this design, we had ideas to let the users be able to split the bill with friends. That's why you have the note at the top, which I should have changed. So at this stage where they continue to check out and are prompted to pick their mode of payment, right? They could decide to go solo and pay on their own, or they could decide to split the bill, with a friend. So that's an example of a way you can generate ideas for whatever pain point or for whatever feature that you want to include in your project and your product. And then from the checkout page, the user enters their payment details and makes payment. This is the end goal. So all you have in between the entry point and the end goal are actions and prompts that your user would likely get. Okay, so this is the task flow. You might see variations, like I said, online when you're researching. So you open the app, you sign up or sign in, You get the camera icon, you click on the camera icon, you upload an image, you search for the meal with a picture, and then you select the meal, you click next, you order the meal, you click order. And once you're on the order page, okay, this was repeated. Once you're on the order page and you click order, your order will be successful and you can go back to the home page. So that's basically what the task flow is. It shows the steps that your user should take, and it gives you a clearer idea of areas that might be missing or areas that might be lacking in your design, and allows you to design for those missing areas. So yeah.
Charles.
Okay.
Charles, can you go back a little?
Okay.
So if no to the next one. So if you look at this particular flow, you easily notice that one particular flow is missing. So I don't know if anyone can point out the particular flow that is missing. One particular thing that is crucial that can complete this this flow. Is there anyone? Can use the raise hand on the app? I'll give exactly. Someone has already mentioned it. DA has mentioned it. So payment method. So you see that you have to pay. So drawing out this flow is what will help you to visualize what you are working on, right? So that place that has that double order meal should be that payment. So this is exactly how I just wanted to show you exactly how it's easy for you to see what you are building already by drawing out this flow. So Charles, can continue.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so we move over to the action interface, channel, and emotion. So all this will help you in creating the user journey. You want to identify action, like we've done in the previous slides, and then the interface that your user will be using. Would they be using a laptop? Would they be using a phone? Or would it be probably a tablet or something? And then the channel that it will be performed through. So what actions are they taking? What channels are they taking these actions on? Is it a mobile browser? Is it on Chrome? Is it on Safari? These are the things that you will take into consideration because these channels have different designs. They have different elements. Safari browser looks very different from a Chrome browser, and they both look different from an Edge browser. Okay, so you want to be able to make sure that you're putting people who will be using various channels into consideration, because you really can't control what channel they'll be using your product on, except you want to make it like an exclusive kind of product. And then the emotion, how was the participant feeling at each stage? Were they happy, enthusiastic? And you can assume this the first time when creating a user journey map. Okay, so for this stage, you can assume, but subsequent testing that you'll be carrying out, you will want to observe how your users felt when they clicked the button. What did they see? How did they feel when they saw whatever it is that is on the screen? And, information like that. So this is a user journey example for getting a meal searching for a meal using a picture. Okay, so step one, the user opens the app. What interface does the user use in opening the app? It's the mobile icon. And then what's the channel? It's the phone. Because it's an app, it'll most likely be a phone, whether it's an Android phone or an iPhone or any other type of phone, as long as the app is available. So that's the channel that they use. It's on the phone. If it was a browser, for example, it could be that they opened the browser. You get. So once they do that, once they're done with step one, you can see the experience. They're most likely not so enthused. They're just like, man, let's see where this goes. So they move on to step two, and on step two, they log in. The interface they use in logging in is a form field. So of course, go back to applications that you downloaded or websites that you've been to, and you're trying to, use their products, and then they ask you to log in. What you see on your screen is usually a form field where you're putting your name, your email, and your password. That's the interface that you're provided by the designer. And then what's the channel? The channel is a mobile app. At this stage, the mobile app is fully open now, and that will most likely be the channel for the rest of the user journey. And at this stage, they're still probably not convinced. So that's why their experience is very much still, or their emotion is very much still looking like this. And then they move on to step 3, they click the camera icon, and the interface for this is the camera icon. Okay, so your interface is usually can also be what they clicked or what they are being shown. It's basically what they are interacting with at that particular point to carry out the action. Okay, so the channel still remains the mobile app. So they move on to upload an image or snap a picture. Okay, that's the snap icon that will show up on once the camera is open. You have to still tap, like, I think, yeah, the snap icon to take a picture. And so from there, they move on to search for a mail. So once the picture is taken, they'll click on the search button, which will be provided, of course, and they're able to search for the mail. And at this point, they are glad that they are able to take a picture to search for a mail. So the user is smiling at this stage. And so once the search is done, they are able to select a mail. So once they select a mail, they'll click the next button to move on to order the meal. And then once they do that, they'll be taken to a place where they'll use the order button to be able to order the meal. And since this is the end goal, this is their end, the end point, they feel sort of happy. Well, not sort of, they're actually happy that they're able to complete the process and order the meal. Okay. So yeah, coming up with user journey will help you see this processes. Here currently, the action to select payment method isn't included here, but during your own user journey map creation, you can see these lagging areas. Okay, Chukwuemeka, do you have anything to add before I move on to low fidelity prototyping?
I think you mentioned most of them. So if I have anything to add, I'll add it later. Let's just continue.
All right. Okay, guys, still feel free to come up with questions if you have anything so that we can answer. So for low fidelity prototypes, they are rough representations of concepts. Okay, they are very, very crude ideas of how, so very crude design of how we imagine that our final design, our hi-fi design, or our developed design would look like. Okay, they help us to validate the concepts early on in the design process. They help the designers test feasibility and functionality. So because of how rough they are, the contents that they contain are usually very, very limited and very little. You most likely will not have color. You most likely would not also have images on your lo-fi designs, and probably you won't have elaborate icons as well. So the limited content is usually shown on the low fidelity prototype. Wireframes can be linked to one another for interaction. It's inexpensive to make, and testing is limited due to the little amount of visual details. So because it's not aesthetically pleasing as a hi-fi prototype would look like, it might not be, your users that are testing might not be willing to go through with it just because it doesn't look so appealing. So these are some of the characteristics of a low fidelity prototype. So low fidelity prototypes can be in form of sketches or wireframes. I personally started, I don't sketch so much. I think I've only sketched about 2 or 3 times. That's because I prefer wireframing with Figma, because Figma would allow you to, you know, what's it called? Connect your designs in order to enhance testing. So when your users will be clicking something, you know, it can easily move on its own, as opposed to the video that I shared in the course content, where they were using Sketch on paper to prototype. So someone has to be there. The designer would most likely have to be there to move the paper to the next slide or to the next screen once the user that is testing has clicked something. But if you were wireframing with Figma or any other design tool, you will be able to connect your frames together, and you most likely will not need to be there to guide the user that will be testing. So sketching requires you to use basic shapes to represent your ideas, and they help you think creatively, as you don't have to worry about the quality. When starting out, you do not need to focus on perfection. Just be clear on what you're showing in your sketches. So sketching as it is, it's very, very basic. You don't need to start thinking about how good it should look. No, it should just help you bring out your ideas and how you think your features and your ideas that you would have prioritized before now. You know, it just helps you picture it clearly on paper, first of all, before moving it to a design tool. So the tools that I use here are mostly pencils, different shades of color for emphasis or for effects, the paper, and Balsamic. Balsamic is a wireframing tool. You can check that out later, balsamic.com. So yeah, so sketching, you can begin by sketching the viewport. So if it's a mobile screen you're designing for, you can sketch, you know, a quick long rectangle. If it's a tablet, or if it's a web page, there are downloadable and feasible packs you can get at sneakpeekit.com. In case you don't want to go through the hassle of drawing your frame, your viewport yourself, you can easily just download these guys and, you know, start sketching on them. Okay, so the contents of your sketches would usually be the copy. The copy, you give hierarchy to your copy. So there's a big title and then there's the body. You have the image as well. The image is characterized by a square or a rectangle or a circle and crossed lines in, you know, in the X form. So any shape at all, once it has these cross lines, the designers would usually interpret it as a picture. A picture is meant to take the place of this drawing. So you have the horizontal scroll bar. It looks like the ones you'll find on high fidelity prototypes as well, just not as aesthetic as those ones. You have the calendar as well. You have a button, you have checkbox. This is a toggle button. Most iOS users would notice this. You have a picker. So this is what you will probably use in picking numbers mostly, or date or time. You most likely find this. And a combo box is, it merges a drop down and a text field. So the boxes where you click and you're able to type, and as you're typing, you have a drop down menu and you can select something from the drop down. That's what a combo box is. You have the media controls up here. You have a calendar sort of selector. You have the volume, and you have a profile picture. So notice how the profile picture is different from the image. The profile picture already has an illustration that kind of looks like somebody, someone, and you know, the image illustration doesn't have anything at all. It only has the cross lines. So the image can contain whatever image it is, whether it's a shoe or the beach or wherever it is, but the profile picture has to have the picture of your user or somebody. Then you have your radio buttons, with their various states, disabled state and disabled selected, and you have your keyboard as well. So these are the elements or the contents that will help you when you're coming up with your sketches or your wireframe. And also icons as well. You can feel free to sketch icons, but if you're sketching icons, make sure that they are universally recognizable. So you're not thinking up icons that look strange. Use icons or sketch icons that people will understand, that are already being used today. Okay, so you can recognize this as a trash can. This is a bulb representing an idea. This is a cloud, and this would probably be contacts, yeah. And this is like a call icon. So yeah, when you're designing icons or when you're sketching icons, make sure that they are recognizable. So when you're sketching, you might want to add notes to, help you remember what the elements do or the elements are meant to do. So always feel free to make little notes beside whatever content or whatever element that you have in your sketches, just so that when you're going over them later, you can know what exactly they are meant to do. But if you're going to be testing with your sketches, you do not need to add annotations there because they will confuse your users and take their attention away from what they should be doing, which is testing your idea or your prototype. Okay, like I mentioned before, Balsamic is a wireframing tool. This is what I started out with, but it doesn't allow you connect your frames together. It kind of looks like a sketch, so you can check it out, balsamic.com. Others are mockplus or wireframe.cc. So how do you improve your sketching skills? Aside there being books out there, or if you read books out there, they'll always advise you to scribble often and capture ideas with scribbles, whether in class or while watching a movie. I think I didn't start with sketching because I didn't feel like I didn't have a high learning. I wasn't going to go through a high learning curve with sketching. I can easily sketch. So I think that was why I looked for something much better, and I went for Balsamic at that time. Okay, so this is what your sketch would look like at the end of the day. You're connecting one screen to the other. So this is like a task flow as well. It gives you an idea of what, the steps your user will take from signing up to creating a profile, and then from the profile, you can, what does it say here? Okay, it says start a class. Okay, so for your donation platform, it could be once they sign up, they create a profile, and then from a profile, they can search for a donation organization that they would personally like to donate to, or just get a random one. It all depends on the ideas that you come up with and how you represent them in your sketches. So additional reading, Beginner's Guide to UI Sketching, that's a very good one that I found, and the Beginner's Guide to User Journey Mapping as well. So most of these additional readings are very self-explanatory as well. Okay, remember, if you have any questions, please share them in the chat box. We're running out of time, so we'll quickly go through the task 5 deliverables. We have about 8 minutes left. Okay, so for the deliverables for the task 5, it says your feature list, show some wow features. And if your wow features or features you think might be too hard or too complicated, if you have features like this, you can break them down and, and see how you can work your way around them. And then you have a user flow diagram for your solutions. If you're coming up with 3 solutions or 4 solutions, as the case may be, have a user flow diagram for each of these solutions so that you can see the steps that your user will take for your solution. I mean, you're the UX designer, you're creating a solution and you want your user to be able to use your solution, because if they're not able to use your solution, then your design is, let me say, your design is bad, it's not usable. So you have to go back to the drawing board and, you know, come up with better ideas and better flows. So you also come up with user journey map for your solutions and comprehensive sketch of your proposed solutions. So your sketch, I want to see your flow in the sketches that you'll be coming up with. So from one screen to the next screen, I want to see the arrows that are connecting them. You can either do this on paper, you take a picture and you post it on your Miro board, and or you can use Balsamic like I did and do that. So I said due to the sketches, it'll be advisable to make a Google Slides presentation. However, you can paste the images of your sketches into your Miro board. Now that I think about it, probably a Miro board would be much better because you can paste your sketch directly on your Miro board instead of going through the trouble of putting everything in a Google Slides presentation. But at the end of the day, do whichever one makes you comfortable. And okay, yeah. So that's that for the deliverables. So yeah, I'll share a link to all the files. I noticed that some people have, or the LMS, the slide share that the LMS makes use of, it kind of blurs out the slides that I share. So I'll share the Google Slides directly so that you can, so that it's much more clearer. And then I'll share a link to the Miro board as well. Okay. So that's basically all.
So yeah, so the file, the tags, everything is on the LMS. So you can just look at the tags, and this is the tags that is on the LMS. So yeah, they're on the board too.
Yeah, okay. So if there are any questions, we'll quickly take them. We have about 5 minutes left till the end of the class. So, but if there are no questions, we'll just end the call and we'll take questions on Slack. Okay, so Marlo says, what is a wow feature? A wow feature, okay, design, usually when you create good designs, your users might not notice your wow feature because your design was, you know, so good and it went with your research and you were able to come up with a good enough idea that is wow, but is not noticeable. So a wow feature is a feature that makes your users want to come back to your product. This feature would also most likely want to make them market your product for you. I mean, it's on paid marketing. So if your feature is good enough, they'll most likely tell their friend about it or tell a family member about it. Like I started using this app, it's called Odin. And what it helps me do is it helps me group my Twitter bookmarks. So you know how everyone is asking, some people are asking, or most users are asking Twitter for a bookmark feature for a kind of folder feature, a feature for the bookmarks so that they know what folder contains what. So the app Odin helps me do that. And, you know, I always tell my friends who would like to group their bookmarks, hey, there's an app called Odin and it can help you do this. So your wow feature should make your users come back. It should be that good to make your users come back and possibly tell other people about your product. So Marlos, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so let me add to that. A wow feature is something that you have that sets you apart from other
Yeah, exactly.
competitors in the industry. So that's something that you want people to be thinking about even after leaving your application. They'll be like, wow, this is so easy to use. I've never had it this easy. Something that will make them shout out, wow. That's just a simple definition.
It doesn't mean that it will be developed in the first in your MVP or your first iteration. You know, it could just be by the side, just sitting. And, you know, when you have much more resources, you can then, you know, take it up and develop. Okay. Are there any more questions? All right, I don't think there are any more questions. So thank you guys for coming to class today. And we'll see you on Slack. So bye-bye now.
Yeah, bye bye, guys.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I'll share the mirror board of this afterwards, and you can go through and see how much ideas were generated. Okay, so this says I hate late delivery, and causes of hate delivery might be bad roads or lateness from the delivery personnel themselves. If you can see my screen, it says, so ideas to curb this could include showing the time of delivery or asking for rating after delivery. So if a delivery personnel asks for rating after delivery, and over time this rating accumulates, they could get more jobs because they are able to deliver on time. Over here it says consider airborne delivery. So airborne delivery might be through drones or probably through robots that can handle airborne delivery. And all these ideas will still go through the prioritization grid to know which ideas to focus on for the moment. So we move over to prioritize these ideas that we've come up with. So there are various prioritization techniques, but for this course, we'll go through the prioritization grid. I can't remember all of them right now. This is like the major one that I use whenever I'm designing. So with the prioritization grid, we can evaluate what impact our solution ideas have on the user. We also look at how complex or feasible it might be. We also check if we have necessary resources to implement the solution idea. So basically, you've come up with your ideas. You need to know these ideas. You need to know which ones are able to be developed at that point, because you might have limited resources. It might be a startup or it might be a big company. For a startup, of course, they'll have limited resources and they won't be able to develop all your ideas, however good they may be. Okay, and that's what prioritization grid helps you to narrow down. It helps you identify the ideas that would have high impact and low effort. So ideas that fall into the high impact, low effort quadrant would most likely go into development in the beginning. Some ideas might go into high impact and high effort. This one is really for companies or organizations that have much larger resources, because first of all, the idea would have a high impact, which is good, but it would cost more to come up to develop, and startups or smaller companies will not have the resources to develop that. And then we move over to the low impact, low effort. This is usually by the side. It's not usually focused on, because it'll have low impact on the users at the end of the day. So what's the need of even trying to develop it in the first place? And then you have the low impact, high effort. This one is this particular ideas that fall into this quadrant are usually abandoned, because you wouldn't want to waste precious resources developing ideas that would have low impact on your users at the end of the day. Okay, so prioritization basically helps you narrow down what ideas to develop and the ones to drop. So steps in prioritizing ideas. First, you prepare your board. Most of you already have your mirror board. Then you identify key actors represented in your ideas and create a frame for each of them. Okay, so key actors are, I don't know if you've used, trying to think of a particular app. Okay, the LMS, for example, is a good example. So you have the side for the student or the learner, which is the interface that you guys see. The instructors that are teaching have their interface that they see, which is quite different from what the learners see. So in this case, there are two actors. There are the learners and there are the instructors. So when you're coming up with ideas, they all wouldn't be affecting only one particular user. They probably will cut across various actors. So for example, for the donation online platform, there could be a site that the donation houses or donation organizations will be seeing. And then there will be a user interface on another side that the donators or people who would like to donate their clothes will see. Okay, they wouldn't be seeing the same UI interface, the same UI, basically because they will be carrying out different activities with the product. Okay, so those are basically what the actors are when you're coming up with ideas and you're moving your ideas into different actor frames. So you move your ideas into each actor frame as they relate respectively, like we just talked about. You move ideas, you think about apps that you've used in the past, and you think about features that you see as the user, and you relate that to the ideas that you've come up with for your donation on your online donation platform, and see where you can move these ideas into. And then you create a prioritization grid for each actor. So I've mentioned like the LMS that has the learner actor and the instructor actor. So the learner actor would have its own prioritization grid, and the instructor actor would have its own prioritization grid. And with the high impact, low effort, and the likes. So this is showing actors for an online food delivery platform that I've been mentioning earlier. And the actors that were identified are the restaurants, the customers, and the admin. Like I said before, I'll share my mirror board so you can see the ideas and sort of relate it to what ideas you'll be coming up with and what actor they can fit into. Okay, so this is the prioritization grid for customers. We had to make a prioritization grid for the restaurants, a prioritization grid for customers, and one for the admin as well. And this one is the prioritization grid for customers. And over here, you have the high impact and low effort quadrant. And these are the ideas that will be prioritized during initial iteration due to their high impact but low effort characteristics. So it's usually easier to develop these ideas, and they have high impact on the user at the end of the day. So yeah, additional reading, design thinking, brainstorming, and the prioritization grid. Okay, so we'll also be talking about the prototype phase as well. But first, let's go.
Charles.
Okay.
So yeah, there are some things I would like to mention too. So during the ideate stage, Charles has also mentioned it, but let's go over some things to maybe refresh our minds on what Charles mentioned. When you are ideating, right? When you are ideating, you need to have everybody on it on your idea as much as possible. Everybody that can join you on that ideation process, because ideation, just like he mentioned, involves having wide ideas. So there's no idea that you say is too wide. It's impossible at that point. So you don't lose a possibility when you are bringing up ideas. So you can have even people that are not on your team to bring ideas for you. So let's say you have your friends, you have people that are around you that know about what you're trying to solve. You bring them on early on. They may not be part of your process after that particular ideation time, but just give them the opportunity to contribute to what you are building. So this will help you to initially get as many ideas as possible, because your target is to get as many ideas as possible from those interviews that you've already done. So those interviews that you've already mapped out as to how they feel, how they think, what they do, and what they say. That's the empathy map. Will help you to know that this is what I'm trying to solve. So if you tell them someone this is what I'm trying to solve, and the next question is how will I solve this problem, right? So when they solve that problem, when they everybody has a mind of his own, and also depending on your capacity, you'll be thinking according to that particular way. If you are a front-end developer, you'll be thinking how can it be implemented, and also your experiences will define the kind of ideas that you will bring. So everybody has a unique opportunity, and you won't say somebody doesn't know what the person um, is saying. Don't. That's why it's mentioned that you shouldn't judge. So what happens is um, when you are ideating, there's many ideation processes. You can give everybody a paper and pen, and everybody will draw out what he or she feels the app should look like, or write out what he or she feels the app should not the app should look like, the app will have to solve this particular problem. You can also be typing. You can type it out if you are doing a visual ideation. You can also ideate with your friends. As I mentioned earlier, you can ideate with your team if you're working with a team. But currently, you are not working on a team. So, but in the future, when you're working with a team, you can ideate with your team. And also, um, when you are ideating, you just like he has practically just as practically mentioned everything that you need when you are ideating. But when you are bringing out those ideas, aim for out of the box ideas, just like you mentioned. Don't only say this is easier. Don't think about how easy it is or how difficult it is at that initial time. Just be churning out ideas, just be bringing out ideas, and after you will now sort those ideas. So there was a time that he mentioned this how to prioritize your ideas. So after you've brought out those ideas, you have those low effort, high impact. Those high impact means that the effect that it will have on your initial product is high. So, but it will take a lesser effort um, to develop. So this comes in when you have you can do it alone, right? But it's best to be done with your what's it called, your front-end developers. So when your front-end developers knows what is easier to implement at a particular moment time. So when they give you those, when you guys sit down to analyze all the whole ideas that have been produced, you arrange them into the ones that are nice, that you now arrange them also into nice to have and must have. Now, those nice to have are those high impact stroke, low effort ideas. So must haves are those high impact stroke low effort. But nice to haves are those ones that it's good to have, but it's not a must at the initial time. And remember, those are some of those ideas can also come in later in the product. But for what you call an MVP, or most viable product at initial launch, you may not need all the whole ideas to launch. So you may just need one or two and run with it. Just like let's use Facebook for example. When building Facebook, you don't need um, all the whole features that it has currently. It started with maybe something like allowing people to post, allowing people to comment, and allowing people to like. Just that. Before later, I started adding groups, started adding messaging, started adding different other things. So those are the kind of things that we call high impact and low effort. So you start with that, and you now start adding other things like stories and stuff. So these are how you build your product. You build start from the lowest, the one that has the lowest effort, and the one that you focus on your how might we that particular problem that you want to solve, focus on it, and you get on with it. So this is just what I want to add to um, what Charles mentioned. So I hope uh, I think the meeting will be ending in 8 minutes and we'll in like four
In
minutes right
about,
now.
yeah, about 3 minutes. So guys, what we'll do is we'll rejoin with the link that I posted on Slack. I hope everyone here is on the design channel, by the way. So I'll end the meeting in a few seconds and we'll all just rejoin back, okay?